Hello, my name is Em, and I'm going into my first year studying biological natural sciences at the University of Cambridge. And today I've got 10 top tips for writing a personal statement that will wow the admissions officers. So the first one I think is kind of like a classic. It is the 80-20 rule. So I think a lot of people, the 80-20 rule is thrown about a lot, but in the context of a personal statement, it is that about 80% of your personal statement should be on supercurriculars. And supercurriculars are the things that you do within your subject but beyond the specification. So ways you extend your learning beyond the spec in your subject. And that's in contrast to supracurriculars, which make up the other 20%. And that would be things like music, sport, art, jobs. So basically this rule means that you should have the majority, so 80%, of your personal statement should be on your subject and what you've done in your subject. And then the remaining 20% can be whatever you've done outside of school. But the emphasis, and it should be, ideally it should be more than 80%, but the emphasis is on supercurriculars. And then that leads me on to my second point, which is when you talk about supercurriculars, you need to link it to how you've gained skills that will be useful for your course. You could say, I worked in a cafe, so I built teamwork skills. So link it to your course, link it to the skills you've learnt, and then that shows that you've gained practical skills from the normal things you do in your life. And third, I think it's to be very niche. Find the very niche subjects that you're interested in and then bring all of those in, because I feel like the more niche you are, the more valuable insight you can bring, because the examiners might not be as well acquainted with something really niche. So when you're talking about it, it's like you're bringing in a new perspective, and I feel like that could be really refreshing. And I think also it's important to remember that admissions officers will be reading, hundreds of personal statements, hundreds if not thousands. You need to be niche to stand out, and standing out is really important. Being niche is one way to stand out, and I think it's quite an easy way to stand out. Like, most people will be passionate about a really specific area, so if you just bring in that specific area, then yeah, I think that's good. Kind of links to the structure. My structure was intro, conclusion, and I had 3 paragraphs on a niche subject, and I would get, throughout the paragraph, it was like a funnel, I would get progressively more niche as the paragraph went on. Yeah, because I think being very niche in that funnel structure shows that you can look at a broad piece of information and locate the pieces that need more, that you want to research more. It allows you to find gaps in your knowledge and be like, oh, I want to learn more about this. This is important to me. And then you research more. And I think that shows valuable skills in terms of research and your ability to find information. And I think this is a really underrated one, but Google Scholar is very, very useful, because you can type in your niche subject into Google Scholar and you'll get like hundreds and hundreds of articles. And I mean, not all of them will be free, and I recommend don't ever pay for an article on Google Scholar when you don't have an academic email address. Just find one that is free. Or you can email the authors with your situation, and that can allow you to access it. But it's really good for just finding random articles that are like really interesting and applicable to what you're learning about. And the fact that if you can reference them in your personal statement, that shows that you have the capacity to do research using the tools you have, and being able to understand academic articles is quite an important skill for university. It's a really simple way of kind of beefing up your personal statement a bit. I wouldn't rely on it totally. I would reference like a book I read, and then I'd be like, I was interested in this bit, so I read this article which led me to do this. And I think that's a good structure, because it allows you to use the article as a jumping off point for further work that you've done. Fifth, another really underrated one, is the power of cold outreach. And so cold outreach is basically when you just contact an academic and you just say, hi, your research is really cool. Do you want to talk? And I did this twice, and it was really valuable. You can just, I emailed a bunch of people and I got 2 responses. One of them was from someone who had a lab in an Imperial, and I went to visit. He was an ecologist. I went to visit the site, and it was really interesting. I got to see the field work. And then secondly was I emailed a professor at Cambridge for plant sciences, and he gave me a tour around Cambridge, the Cambridge labs, and some of the research they were doing, which was such a valuable experience, and I was very lucky to be able to do that. And it was entirely free, and it got me to be in contact with people in academia, and that's just valuable. So you can put in the cold outreach you've done into your personal statement first of all, saying you're proactive and you're engaging with actual researchers and trying to put yourself out there. But also you can ask them to read your personal statement when you're writing it, so you can get feedback on it directly from someone who is experienced in reading personal statements and making decisions about them. So that was really important. I think it's really valuable. Sixth would be to link in overarching lessons that you learned through your activities. So for instance, I said that throughout my activities I was becoming more and increasingly aware of the complexity of biology, both in organisms and cells being really complex, but also in the research we do on them being really complex. And I decided to try and integrate this idea of me understanding the complexity of biology into my personal statement. So it reflected a journey that I was going through, where I was learning more and more about how much I didn't know. And I think having that sets your personal statement apart, because you show that you're trying to learn more and you're pursuing increasing understanding of your subject. And it shows really good reflective skills, because obviously you're supposed to, you need to reflect a lot in your personal statement about what you've learned and how you've become a better academic. Having that overarching lesson, maybe you link it into your introduction and conclusion, I think it really shows that you're willing to evolve. That's really important, because at uni you're looking to evolve as an academic, as a person, so you need to show your capacity to learn from the experiences that you have. Similarly, for number 7 would be to weave in a narrative, display it as an academic journey. You show the journey that you have from your starting point to your finish point, where you kind of funnel down. So I think it's really important to have your have it as a coherent journey, and you're moving through your journey and you're picking up new skills and reflecting along the way. So I think the structure would be intro, conclusion, and 3 paragraphs, where each paragraph is a journey through a specific subtopic in your field. It's all about academic discovery. 8, don't force yourself to fit everything in your personal statement, because they don't want to be hearing a list of all the things you've done. It doesn't show your ability to reflect. It doesn't reflect the skills you've learnt. You need to present yourself in a way that demonstrates your ability to evolve and to learn new things, because that's what they want to see. They want to see that you can learn. That's what you're going to university to learn. They want to know that you can learn. They want to know that you can learn independently. They want to know that you can learn new skills. Don't list. It's important to choose the stuff that you talk about very carefully, so that you are, only including relevant information into your personal statement, because adding excess is not useful, because you have a character limit, and you need to be presenting what you're most proud of. That is what I'd say. You choose what you're most proud of and what you can write about the rest. 9 would be to take it very slowly. Your first draft will not be great, so don't procrastinate doing it. Just do it, because it's not going to be great, but you've taken the first step, and from then on it's easier, because each draft it's a very incremental, iterative process. So take it slowly, reflect on what you've written while you sleep, let it mull over in your head for a few weeks. Don't leave it last minute, because you won't present yourself as good as you are if you leave it to the last minute. Be slow with it. That's really the best way to craft a really good personal statement. And I think finally is to be really authentic to yourself, because it is a personal statement after all. Mention the things that motivate you. For me, I would mention climate change, because I'm quite passionate about climate activism. I brought in some activism, some protests I attended, and I just found it really valuable to talk about, this is my larger goal. My motivation is this big thing that I want to help with. I am motivated because I want to do this. I want to help. And if you bring in something like that you're really passionate about, that really shows your willingness to engage in different activities and to learn. I think just be authentic to what you're most proud of and what you're most interested in, because especially if you're doing interviews, You want to be referencing things that you want to talk about, that you're actually passionate about. Also, it's just more fun when what you're writing in your personal statement about is something that you genuinely care about. I thought I would just kind of explain the overall structure that I would use for a personal statement. So that would begin with your introduction, and I suggest you to kind of talk about one activity and give a deep reflection that you have on that subject. My example would be I talked about the complexity of biology and also of research. Do something like that which shows that you're like reflecting on your subject in a big way. That's quite a good way to start. And then I recommend having 3 body paragraphs, and kind of the structure for each one, it should focus on one area within your subject, and it kind of should flow. So you got maybe start from like, I read this book which led me to write this essay, which led me to read this article, and I did this. And you should kind of sandwich each activity with a reflection afterwards. So activity, reflection, to show you're having deep critical analysis. Try to link in ideas from your introduction into it if you want to. I think it's nice for consistency and having like a narrative that you weave throughout your personal statement. But if you just link in like complexity or whatever here and there, I think that's kind of valuable. But repeating that 3 times it gives you enough breadth to show that you are thinking about your subject in different ways, but enough depth to show you're thinking like deeply. You're not just skimming over topics, you know? Finally, for your conclusion, I recommend this is where you should probably include your supracurriculars. So, and the link in the lessons they gave you, and it's kind of good to finish off with those lessons and why you're a good student, and then also discussion of motivators in your conclusion. So I talked about climate change. I think it gives a nice synoptic view of you as a person and your motivations. And also, because all of this sounds like a lot, and I know it's only 4,000 characters, so I'd recommend you write this and then whittle it down. You can get rid of a lot of filler words and it still makes sense. Like, as long as it makes sense, then it's fine. Just start with the skeleton of it, and then you can whittle away and meet the requirement and make it flow better. You know, you should enjoy the process because it is quite fun to learn this new skill of how to talk about yourself in a way that is kind of like you're advertising yourself. It's a new skill. It's kind of difficult to learn. You really can kind of learn to enjoy the process because it is quite fun. View it as like a fun little game where you're trying to present yourself in like a really positive light and summarize your journey, and there's a character limit and it's kind of challenging. I find it helpful to view it as a bit of a game. But anyway, that's all my tips. If you're writing your personal statement, good luck. I'm sure you'll do amazing. Be okay with not being perfect. Don't force yourself to be perfect. But good luck. You're going to do amazing, and good luck with university applications. So bye!